What's going on, guys? So you're in for a relatively interesting video, especially if you have the 3.5 liter EcoBoost in your Ford, specifically like the Ford Expedition we have here in front of us. So if you haven't followed the channel for very long, you're probably aware that my wife drives a 2019 Ford Expedition Platinum two-wheel drive with the Max Tow package. This is as loaded as they get, aside from not being four-wheel drive. And we did that specifically because there's never really a scenario with my wife's vehicle that it needs to be four-wheel drive, and we figured we'd take advantage of the slightly lower overall weight, gives us a little bit of payload capacity back, as well as the better fuel economy that you expect to get with a two-wheel drive vehicle. But that's not always the case. Let's talk about it. Hang tight, I'll be right back. All right, so connected to my wife's Expedition is our CargoMate 10-foot cargo trailer. This thing has a gross vehicle weight rating of 2,900 pounds, 2,990 pounds, and a cargo capacity of roughly half of that, 1,589 pounds. So certainly not what I would consider to be like a really heavy-duty cargo trailer. We did put these awesome tires on it, which are the Transeagle G-rated 225/75/15s. If you haven't seen those, definitely check those out. I'll throw a link in the description of this video. Pick those up off of, I actually can't remember where I got them, but I know they sell them on Amazon, so I'll put the link there. But super cool to have a G-rated tire on a 15-inch rim, and I know a lot of people are really hunting those down now because it's a very desirable tire to have on a trailer that small, or at least a trailer tire wheel combination that small. So all that said, you know, just had a very, very disappointing experience with the wife's Expedition. And, you know, she really didn't notice it as much, except for the fact that I had to stop a lot on a trip we just got back from. So we literally just returned from a trip to and from Dallas. It's about a 425, 430 mile trip each way. The overall time it takes is about 6.5 to 7 hours, depending on traffic. It took us closer to 7.5 hours because we had to stop quite a few times. Now, why is that? So we have a 26-gallon fuel tank on this Expedition. And when you look at the actual EPA fuel economy readings for this vehicle, I believe it's like 19 city, 21 highway, or 23 highway. And we've actually gotten pretty good fuel economy with this, you know, when we drive just by itself on the city or in the highway. So the trip we took up to Dallas, we had this trailer loaded up. I'm kind of joking. We had it with about 500 pounds worth of cargo in the back. We had some mattresses and a couple bed frame components and a headboard and a nightstand inside of this trailer. It wasn't a lot of weight. I would probably venture to say about 500 pounds total worth of cargo was loaded inside of our CargoMate trailer. I want you to guess what you think our fuel economy was, the average fuel economy we got with this setup. Now keep in mind, 10-speed automatic transmission. That does play into it because one of the reasons why Ford and all the other manufacturers moved to a 10-speed automatic transmission was because you're always essentially going to be in the right gear for the perfect balance of kind of fuel economy, towing capability, and efficiency when you have more gears to choose from. So we have the 10-speed automatic transmission. We have the 3.5 liter twin turbo EcoBoost V6, which is the most powerful version of this that they make, and or at least at the time in 2019. And when you get it in the Platinum trim, you actually get like an extra 50 or 60 horsepower and pound-feet of torque. So you actually get an even higher spec version of this engine. But the thing I want you to focus in on is the Max Tow package trim. What does that include? Well, it has that trailer assist knob where you can kind of turn the knob and back the trailer up if you put the stickers on it, and you can kind of use the knob to turn so you don't have to think about which way you need to rotate your steering wheel when you're backing up. It has the 7-way connector, it has the 4-way connector, so you can connect your trailer, your brakes, all of that good stuff. It has the slightly higher capacity springs to be able to support the weight. It has a little bit more stabilization built into the suspension to be able to handle roll and sway and things like that. The integrated trailer brake controller up front, and it has roughly a 9,000 pound maximum tow capacity. So when you compare this to like a half-ton truck, this is going to be very comparable to a lot of high-spec half-ton trucks. It has a little under 1,500 pounds worth of cargo capacity, which again, when you compare this to like a Denali or a High Country or a King Ranch or a Ram Laramie Longhorn, anything in a high-spec trim package, it's about the same. In some cases, pickup trucks have far less than some of these SUVs. Now, from a towing perspective, it's also roughly about the same, with about 9,000 13,000 pounds worth of maximum towing. Now, I know a lot of you are going to say, well, wait a second. These manufacturers claim 13,000 pound towing with a half-ton truck. No, that's with a very specific half-ton truck in a very specific package. But if you're getting a high-specced out, high-trimmed luxury version of these trucks, especially if you're getting it off the dealership lot when they were available, you're probably stuck with about 9,000 to 10,000 pounds worth of maximum tow rating and a cargo capacity, if you check your door sticker, closer to probably about 1,400 to 1,500 pounds, depending on the truck you have. Some of them go down to like 1,200 pounds. Shoot, a 3/4 ton Ram 2500 Power Wagon actually only has like 1,200 pounds, maybe 1,100 pounds worth of cargo capacity. A 3/4 ton truck. And that's because of all the gadgets, all the suspension stuff, everything they've added to it. So, you know the specs of the truck. Max tow package, under 1,500 pounds, roughly 1,500 pounds worth of cargo capacity, about 9,000 pounds towing capacity in a 2-wheel drive configuration, which allows us to maximize some of those numbers. What do you suspect the fuel economy on this vehicle to be towing? I guess we probably racked up a total of about 550 miles on this trip. So 550 miles, mainly on interstates. So whenever you go back to this and you start to think, well, how did they tow? What did they do? I'm basing the fuel economy average on the interstate stints between fill-ups. So that's probably the most ideal condition. Now, most interstates here in Texas are between 70 and 75 miles per hour in terms of the speed limit. But just average, I usually go about 72 to 73 miles per hour. There's a few instances where I'm a little under that and a few instances where I'm over that. Certainly while driving through big cities, you know, you drop down as you're changing, going over interchanges and all these different types of overpasses and turns. But I'm talking about on the straightaways. The interstate runs between the cities, between fill-ups. What do you think the fuel economy of this 2019 Expedition that was purchased brand new in 2019? It only has like 25,000 miles on it, so not a ton of miles on it. And we don't tow very often with my wife's vehicle. That's why what I'm talking about here is such a disappointment to me in terms of what I'm going to talk about next, because we don't use my wife's vehicle to tow very often. We've towed this trailer around town to pick things up, to drop things off. We've towed it occasionally out of town, not very far, but we usually use my truck if we're going to tow anything. So what do you guys suspect we're getting with this in terms of fuel economy? I'll give you an opportunity to leave a comment below. I'm talking about highway fuel economy, not city. Highway fuel economy, the number that should be greater most of the time, unless you're driving like a hybrid or something. Okay, so if you thought that we are getting 21 miles per gallon on the highway, you are absolutely wrong. If you thought we're getting 18 miles per gallon on the highway, you are way, way, way off. If you think we're getting much better than that, like 25 to 27 miles per gallon, yeah, that's not even in the ballpark. Let's say you think we're getting 12 miles per gallon. And why am I using the magical 12 mile per gallon number? Because my F450, when I'm not towing anything, it gets about 12 to 12.5 miles per gallon in the city and about 13.5 on the highway, if I'm lucky, but 12.5. So my F450, not towing anything, do you think that this, while towing that trailer, which was loaded up, I'm gonna say to a maximum of about maybe 2,100 pounds total, including the weight of the trailer. Do you think I was getting 12 miles per gallon towing this thing? What do you think? Do you think I was getting 10 miles per gallon? No, I was getting a little under 8 miles per gallon. 8 miles per gallon towing a trailer that's very small, has a V nose to it. It's not as tall as even most of your small compact travel trailers. Again, only weighted up to about 2,100 pounds, basically the 1,598 pound dry weight of the trailer, and then you add about 500 pounds worth of cargo that was inside of the trailer. Rib tires on it, you know, this isn't a heavy trailer. You know, let's stretch it and say that the trailer is at 2,500 pounds just because of the battery upgrade, the heavier tires, whatever. 2,500 pounds worth of cargo total on the back of this, with 4 passengers inside, 3 adults and 1 child. And I was the heaviest one by far, but my wife, my older daughter, and my younger daughter were the other 3 passengers, and all of them are very light. So, you know, to get 7.8 to 8 miles per gallon with this setup was extremely disappointing, which meant that the 26-gallon tank that I had inside of here was woefully inadequate for the towing that we just did. And I had to stop so many times. I pretty much would stop at a quarter of a tank because I saw how quickly the fuel was going down. Yeah, so I am so disappointed with this in terms of its overall fuel economy and what it's capable of doing while towing. And I had it in tow haul mode. I tried it in economy mode even, and it really didn't change the numbers. It just changed how it shifted. Now, the engine exhaust brake on this is pretty phenomenal. With the way that it handles it with the EcoBoost, it's pretty cool. It almost feels like a diesel. And in terms of power, it had plenty of power. I could accelerate as fast as I wanted with this thing. It just wasn't an issue there. But the traveling in between, being able to just go a long stint without having to refill, very, very disappointed. Certainly not happy with the fuel economy that we got towing a very, very small trailer. Now, why is this relevant to people who tow RVs? Well, the main relevancy here is the fact that if I had a 6,000 pound travel trailer behind this, I would probably get even worse fuel economy, probably 6 miles to a gallon, maybe 5.5 miles to a gallon with a 26 gallon fuel tank. Think about that. You can't go anywhere. You better have fuel stations all around you to be able to have that as an acceptable amount of fuel to get you to and from where you're going. You know, just driving around town here, doing little things with this, perfectly fine. If we had a small travel trailer and we're just going 50 miles away, kind of fine, but you're probably gonna have to fill up before you head back. But the reality is, one of the other reasons you need to very much consider what you use as a tow vehicle is how much fuel it's going to take to get where you're going, and if you're even going to be able to make it there. That's a big one. Can you actually make it to where you're trying to go without, you know, being in fear that you're going to run out of fuel on the way? So, you know, I'm usually a really big advocate for these EcoBoosts for what they're doing, but I feel either they need to put a bigger fuel tank on here or they need to be able to manage towing weight better with the engine in these vehicles. Now, granted, it is super hot, 103 degrees. That's not feel like, that's 103 degrees actual temperature the entire time we traveled. So, you know, heat index probably 112 degrees. And I know heat plays a huge factor. We were running the air conditioner full blast the entire time because we needed to, and that's certainly going to factor into it. But it's summer. This is the time people travel. This is when you expect to be able to use a vehicle like this to tow something like that. So again, the whole point of this video isn't to bash this vehicle. We love it. It's my wife's favorite SUV. It's probably one of her favorite vehicles she's ever owned. But when you're towing something with it, you really, really start to feel the limitations of that fuel tank, the EcoBoost in terms of fuel efficiency and performance. Because under 8 miles per gallon, towing that little trailer, to me, is just unacceptable. It really is. They need to do something about that. They need to put a bigger fuel tank at minimum. I think that would at least get you a little further, because I would feel very, very nervous taking this on a really long trip out past West Texas, towing a trailer, wondering if I'm going to have a fuel stop that I can stop at to top off, or wondering how many times I'm going to have to stop at a gas station to fill up. Anyways, guys, that is the whole topic of this video. Other than that, the vehicle has been absolutely fantastic. We have not had a single mechanical issue with this vehicle whatsoever. Again, 2019, we bought it right at the, I guess, probably a couple months before 2020. I made a full video on it. Beautiful vehicle. My wife absolutely loves it. I'm just really disappointed today because I did not expect this trailer to suck the fuel out of this Expedition like it did. Anyways, guys, I sure hope you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.